Hi, it's Trish, and I'm going to help you get the right direct mail marketing list to grow your business. And in direct mail, the list is everything. I mean, who wants to put all the time and money and resources and postage into a piece that hits the mail stream and doesn't get into the hands of the right person? So the list is everything. Few questions to get started here. What list do you have? Forget about whether they're current. First things first, just what lists do you have? If you're in business and you've ever sent mail, you probably have at least one list, possibly more lists. We can always update them. I've got a whole video and blog post and everything on how to update lists. That's not our concern at the moment. What do we have? And what do we need, secondly? So who is your ideal customer? And we're going to talk about how to get to them, but start really thinking about what types of lists that we need. And then also in this process, one of the first questions that comes up is this a business to business or B2B list or business to consumer or B2C list? The answer could be both, but you just need to know the answer to that question. Okay, moving on. Okay, the next question is, how do you plan to reach your audience? There are 5 different general strategies for targeting to get to your audience. This is really important because there are different types of lists, and so knowing that strategy has a lot to do with the type of list you're going to be looking for. First is saturation. Saturation mail is kind of geographic saturation. So you might pick an area, a town, a county, even a neighborhood, and say that every address in that area is going to get a piece of mail. So this is great for brick and mortar, for businesses and services that a general population would likely need. Targeted saturation, same type of strategy, except with maybe a simple filter like everybody in this county who is over 65. Mass mail is your classic spray and pray strategy, which is everybody gets the same piece of mail. This might be, insurance industry, something like that, where, they send kind of across the United States, within certain demographics, everybody gets the same piece of mail. And so that type of thing, it's less common these days with our ability to target, but mass mail still exists. After that is targeted mail, and targeted mail is when you are making mail that's appropriate to either a very specific target or a group of people. So batch targeting would be when you've got, let's say, a group of people with similar characteristics, maybe young, families with kids. And so all of the imagery and the messaging is relevant to that group. And then maybe there's another batch, and that batch is for empty nesters. And so all the images and messaging is relevant to that. So you can see it's kind of a batch of targeted, to a specific group. And then there's personalized targeting where you start to put their names in and it's still personalized content, to somebody. And then there's something called micro-targeting, which is truly one-to-one communications. And that's when you know a lot more about buying preferences and lifestyle characteristics and you name it. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but knowing how you're going to get to your audience is really important in determining your list. As a marketer, there are 2 types of mail marketing lists you should be nurturing and updating at all times. First is your in-house list, and these are your customers, your former customers, webinar attendees, trade show attendees, web form leads, leads from CRM systems for sales, etc. So these are your owned names, and this is a list. It might be one list, might be multiple lists, but you should always be maintaining and updating that one. Also, your third-party prospect lists. This is the other category that's really, really important. And there are 2 flavors, so to speak, of these lists. There are response lists and compiled lists. So response lists are made up of people who have a proven interest or need in your category. This can be buyers, so lists of proven buyers of products or services, associations, professional or trade members, etc. Subscribers, so that could be magazine or newsletter subscribers, continuity subscriptions, you name it. And then compiled lists, ultimately here what you're trying to do is find customer clones, so to speak, and they are a collection of names from a third party like directories and public records and professional licenses, warranty, product registrations, etc. My favorite list compiler is AccuZip. They specialize in direct mail lists and also direct mail software. So they have a really rigorous process of list cleansing. It goes through a totally cutting edge system, sends out a squeaky clean list at the end, flat rate pricing, no minimum order quantity, easy user interface. So very cool. You should check it out. I'll have a link at the end of the video. This next step is probably the most critical in this entire process of finding and acquiring a list, and that is, who is your ideal customer? This is really important because the more you know your customer, the better and more accurate your list is going to be. Whether you are using an online service and clicking buttons and finding those, kind of paring down those characteristics yourself, or whether you're on the phone with a list broker or a list manager, somebody who's trying to help you find a list, they're going to have a lot of questions. And it's best to think of this stuff ahead of time rather than doing it on the fly and trying to, off the top of your head, think up all the things and characteristics that your ideal customer would have in common. So think about this ahead of time. There are lots of ways to segment your list. Geography, of course. Secondly, demographics. So what are the kind of the statistical characteristics, age and income and marital status, etc. Firmographics is to business as demographics is to people. So, firmographics would be if you're looking for a business list, the size of the business, the location, the sales, the employee count, things like that. So there are different things that you can use to help pare down that list. Psychographics is basically taking psychology and demographics and combining them. So, that is kind of life, preferences and hobbies and things like that, and combining that with demographics. So, for example, pet-loving city dwellers over 65. Who are married or something. So you can kind of combine those, preferences with demographics. And then you also might want to think about sales stage. Where is that person within the sales process as well? Okay, it's time for the money talk. And you're probably wondering, now that we've been through this process, okay, fine, but what is this going to cost me? This is just for order of magnitude. Pricing can vary depending on what it is you're looking for, where you live. But regardless, we were talking a bit about the different ways to get to your audience, and I was telling you that there are different types of lists and the value of those lists can vary. Saturation lists are going to be your lowest cost, 2 to 3 cents per name roughly. And those are also called occupancy lists. It's basically, every mailable address within a certain geographic area. So those are your least expensive. Up from there is your compiled names, and those can be anywhere from 3 cents to 20 cents a piece. I was mentioning how AccuZip has a flat rate. They're 3 cents a name. Pretty amazing. So the compiled list, 3 cents to 20 cents roughly. And then your specialized names. We were talking about response lists, and I mentioned that those could really, go up in cost, and that's because those are proven response lists. Those are owned by, list managers or managed by brokers, and those can be anywhere from 15 to 35 cents and up per name. The more specialized and targeted that list, the more valuable it is, and the higher the price. So what if you need more than just names and addresses? Well, that's easy. Just ask. I know personally that my friends at AccuZip can run profiles on your lists and get you a whole bunch of additional demographic data, phone numbers, you name it. It would be a custom request, but they can do it. So if there's something else you want, just ask and you might be able to get it. So in review, know who your customer is, critically important. Know how you are going to reach them, and work with the list sources you trust. I'll have some links at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.